You might have heard that lithium stocks are the place to be, or that the lithium and commodities supercycle is underway. However, do you really know the story? Of course, we all know that you can't have electric vehicles without lithium, and the EV transition is rapidly arriving. There are a few interesting supply and demand drivers that have led to the lithium price soaring by over 500% in just a few short years. This shortfall is expected to continue. This has left many investors now wondering, where will all the lithium come from? So the idea for this video just started with a simple conversation. I was speaking to a friend and they asked me, why is there so much attention on the lithium sector? Of course, yes, it's growing in attention.
So what the heck is going on in the sector? Attention is once again focused on anything tied to renewable energy.
However, it's definitely not arrived in the mainstream consciousness. The lithium supply chain is still not well understood, despite the fact that it continues to grow. Benchmark Minerals recently put out a report that stated 2035 demand for lithium is expected to be nearly 600% of 2022 supply. The question that many now have is, how are we going to fill this gap? Commodities are simply a function of supply and demand. As we know, the lithium market continues to grow in demand, with lithium-ion batteries, the key rechargeable batteries, helping to fuel electric vehicles. The electrification transition is gaining momentum, whether it's government policies being developed for the sector, investment from manufacturers into their own capabilities, as well as, of course, investments into the EV battery material supply chain. And further to that, it truly is gaining acceptance that this is a once-in-a-lifetime type event. It's a generational event, the likes of which many people have stated we haven't seen since the automobile replaced the horse and cart. However, it's not only the demand side of the equation that's driving this move in lithium prices. The supply side has a really interesting dynamic evolving as well. For one, there's no real viable commercial scale substitute for lithium-ion batteries at this current stage. And then on the other side, thinking about recent history, of course, as we know, we had the real lithium boom in terms of prices in 2017 and 18, before the bust in 18, 19, 20. As prices come down, the incentives are no longer there. The economics don't stack up for new projects. And so we saw a significant underinvestment in new lithium projects. New projects weren't coming online. And this, coupled with the soaring demand, has led to that squeeze and the parabolic move in terms of lithium prices. As we unpack 3 key reasons why manufacturers can't get their hands on enough lithium to fulfill their goals that's driving such excitement in the lithium sector, make sure you drop in a comment below, let us know your thoughts, and make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on so you won't miss any more of our videos in the space moving forward. Key driver number 1 for why the lithium market is soaring. As we know, lithium projects take time. These are complex projects. When you're going downstream, you're going into the specialty chemical space. Of course, it's not as simple as just digging the lithium up out of the ground and putting it into an electric vehicle. Whether it's spodumene or brine, you've got to extract the lithium, then you've got to process and refine it before you've got a battery grade product, whether it's lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide, ready to put into an electric vehicle. However, this is all contrasted on the other side when you consider the fact that gigafactories can take 1, 2, 3 years to stand up and be ready, but lithium projects can take 5 or 7 years. Of course, as vehicle manufacturers invest heavily into capabilities to move towards net zero by 2030 or 2050, depending on their aspirations, they're going to need more and more lithium to fulfill these demands. More gigafactories coming online, but it takes longer to bring on the lithium projects, which is leading to that squeeze in terms of lithium demand. It's economics 101. As we know, if supply remains relatively constant or grows at a slow rate, but you've got demand growing exponentially and rapidly, well, you're going to see an uplift in terms of prices, and that's what we're currently seeing play out. Driver number 2 is a geographical reason. More specifically, the focus on onshoring and localization of supply chains. Now, we've seen the effect that disrupted supply chains can have, particularly with the energy crisis playing out with the Russia and gas situation. However, there is a big focus from regions and nations around the world to invest into and develop and build out their own robust supply chains that they're able to rely on. To paint that picture and to understand it, at this stage, lithium processing and refining is still owned around about 2/3 by China. But of course, as nations around the world want to invest into these supply chains, the EU and China were the fastest growing and the earliest adopters of EVs at scale, but nations like the US and other countries around the world want to invest into their electric vehicle battery resources supply chain so that they're able to build sustainable growth moving forward. We've seen a developing policy situation as governments around the world look to incentivize and build these supply chains out. An example of that was the Inflation Reduction Act over $300 billion earmarked in the United States for the largest single green energy investment in their history. Of course, a lot of that was aiming at fueling the lithium-ion battery supply chain, localizing it, and really building that out sustainably. We're seeing this growing focus and investment. As it continues on, we're seeing investment trends too. We're seeing investors prioritizing tier 1 jurisdictions and often placing a premium on lithium projects in nations like the United States and in Australia. And then, of course, the third driver is the fact that demand continues to outstrip and outpace supply. We've talked about it a little bit earlier on in the video, but it's worth noting that demand for lithium is not only solely focused on the electric vehicle market. It could be on your phone, your laptop, perhaps a device that you're watching this very video on. The reason that the electric vehicle market gets such attention is because of the volume of lithium that's required to fuel these EVs. However, as we can see, EV demand is growing and growing very rapidly. In 2021, according to the IEA, there was just over 6.5 million new EV registrations. This is out of a total of 75-ish million new car registrations globally, which is still under a 10% penetration, as focus from governments as well as manufacturers and the broader society increases. It's intuitively understood that we're going to continue to see EV penetration rise, which is going to drive up demand for the lithium to help to fuel this. And so what we are seeing at this stage is a growing societal support and government focus. We're seeing these net zero decarbonisation targets be set and pushed towards. Of course, there's growing investment from manufacturers like Volkswagen, Ford, as well as Toyota. We understand the fact that EV penetration will continue to rise, so will demand for lithium, and we're seeing this flow through in the forecasts, whether it's from investment funds or industry bodies. And watching this dynamic play out over the next decade is definitely going to be something to watch. If you've enjoyed this video, before we talk about where the lithium will come from, hit that like button, it helps out the channel a lot. But you might be wondering, why is lithium the hottest commodity on the market? For some, it's the opportunity to invest into the new era, into the future. For others, they embrace the opportunity to be able to contribute to this transition away from fossil fuels. Now, of course, we know this transition is not going to be swift. It won't be quick. We've seen this in the transition towards renewables from fossil fuels. It is going to take time. Though, for many, the question that they often ask is, where will all the lithium come from? The answer to that is actually relatively straightforward. From brines, from hard rock spodumene, and eventually from clay, DLE, and other extraction methods. But maybe the real question that we should continue to ask ourselves is how quickly can we get the lithium that we need to help to fuel this electric vehicle transition? If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you've subscribed. Here's a video you can check out after this one in the lithium space. A big thank you for joining us. Let us know your thoughts. For now, stay well and happy investing.